Hey everybody, my name is Cheryl, and welcome to Jason's Joy. Jason's Joy is going to be small little video blogs from me about my son Jason, who brought joy to me, his family, and everyone else that he ever met. Jason passed away this past October 15th, 2024, from cancer. And it's important for me to get his story out and just share a little bit of his life with people, because I feel he had so much more to offer, and he didn't have a chance to share that with people. I'm not very good at these videos, so bear with me, as this is video number 1. Uh, Eventually, I would like to be able to actually talk with other people live and share their stories as well. We all know that, cancer is a devastating thing that affects so many people. But what you hear most about them are statistics and, numbers and things like that. You don't really hear much of the actual personal stories and the lives that are affected by it. I know that my purpose behind creating these little video blogs is about Jason's joy and the good things and the things that he brought with him into this world. But we're going to talk a little bit about the good, the bad. There was no ugly, so I'm not going to say ugly. The good, the bad, the uncomfortable, the trials, the triumphs, the just everything surrounding this boy's beautiful life. And Art, if you are watching this, don't laugh at me. That's my that's my oldest, who's very, very good at doing these video things, and very artistic and very talented, and just an amazing human being. Okay, so what can I say in this starter video blog about Jason? Well, he was a handful from the beginning. He was supposed to be born on Valentine's Day, 1998. Actually, no, Valentine's Day, 1999. But he came so early. He came the day after Christmas. So we always had this joke that he was supposed to be a Valentine's baby, but he preferred Christmas, which he did. He absolutely loved Christmas. He loved decorating. He was my decorating buddy. Absolutely loved Christmas. But he came 7 weeks premature, and the doctors actually prepared me to not get used to the idea of him being here, that there was a chance he may not survive. So that was kind of scary. But, right from the beginning, he was determined. He did survive. He not only survived, but he thrived. The hospital where he was born, he had to meet certain criteria before a baby could come home. Jason had some problems while he was there. His lungs were underdeveloped, so there was some breathing issues. He was in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit, in a incubator, while he had to gain enough weight to come home, which would be 5 pounds or more. So he was there for quite a while. He didn't come home for a while. He also had episodes of apnea where he would stop breathing while he was sleeping. So those had to stop. All of his APGAR tests had to be normal. And, it was going to take quite a bit for him to come home. So, but he did it. that he was determined he was going to make it and he was going to come home. And so I had my day after Christmas baby after that. um, due to some of these things is why I think later on he was diagnosed with Asperger's and ADD. Um, but we'll get to that. One thing I noticed about Jason when he was a baby was he would get bored pretty easily. He only liked things that were full of activity and like music, like the cartoons. The cartoon he loved the most as a baby was Blue's Clues, and I think it was because Steve with the handy dandy notebook and putting the clues together to find out what Blue was trying to get at. It's like I think right from the beginning he enjoyed following along with the clues, and he liked things that made him think. And I have a feeling that that's because his brain was just going so fast. Like he was just thinking so quickly that those kept up with him. He was a bundle of energy. And, you know, during that time, there wasn't a lot of kids being diagnosed with Asperger's or ADD. And so there was a lot of, oh, he's just being hyper. Oh, boys, that kind of thing. It was hard to keep him focused, and it was hard to keep him entertained. And what was hard for me was I was working full time, and so he had to spend a lot of time in daycare. Um, in fact, he went right into an infant daycare uh, as soon as he was allowed to. But because he was born so premature, a lot of daycares wouldn't take him until he was of a gestation age, so to speak. So luckily, my job, I worked for a small nonprofit, and luckily they allowed me some time to get those affairs in order. Uh, and I hate to pat myself on the back, but I think I did a lot for them, and so they decided they were going to help me out. Um, so, but what's funny is even from then, the infant daycare fell in love with Jason. I mean, they just loved him. He was a joy to them. Um, One of my favorite pictures from that was when Santa Claus came in, and here's this kid with wild blonde hair, because and I don't even know how he came with blonde hair, because he had black hair when he was born with little wisps of gray on the side, almost like an old man. In fact, that's what we would tease and say, he was an old man. And all that hair fell out, and then when it grew back in, it was this doe blonde, which was a shock because neither myself nor his father had blonde hair. So it was kind of shocking to see him with this blonde hair. But uh, in this picture, he's on Santa's lap and he is just screaming. He is crying. He does not want to be on Santa's lap. Um, I don't think he was into the whole thing. And then, as he got older, I always said, "Well, but you want it to be born on Christmas." But anyway, yeah, so he was right into an infant daycare, and but they loved him. They loved him there, and I would love coming home, and he just would run up to me, and he was so happy that I was home. We were besties from the beginning, um, and it wasn't easy for him. Around the time that he was born, his father had uh, made some poor employment decisions, and things were tough. And we were sharing a house with my older brother and his then wife and daughter. And so it was myself and my older child and Jason, who was brand new, and my brother, his wife, their oldest, and they were having another one. So it was just a tough time and bad choices and things that landed us in that situation. Um, but we did the best we could. We did the best we could, and Jason was very special to everyone. As I said, I was working at a small nonprofit. It was a senior home for seniors, and they loved him. I'd bring him in, and they'd all, oh, let me see the baby. There's one thing you ever want to bring joy to seniors' lives: bring a baby, or small kids. They love it. So Jason was very blessed to have that in his life, where I could bring him somewhere and everyone was just so happy to see him. And not to mention, it was a large facility, so you sit him down on the floor and he'd get up and go running down the halls and get all the energy out. um, so he was a great, great baby. And as he grew up, we knew something was a little different. He was separated from a lot of the other kids because he was too interrupting of what was happening. Um, he went through 3 different daycares. The third daycare was more like a preschool, and they said that they were having a real hard time with him. Um, and we kind of just dealt with that the way that we knew how at that point in time, and waited for kindergarten. So when he went into kindergarten, he uh, again was struggling. He would end up in fights with other students. What we found later on was that he was being bullied for being different. The school that he was in was ill equipped to understand him, deal with him, whatever you want to say, as far as knowing how to handle a child like Jason. It was very difficult. Um, and I, I wasn't sure what I was going to do after that. If he had remained in that school, I would have had to figure something else out. Um, but as fate would have it, my kid's father and I ended up um, getting a divorce about a year after we purchased a home together, and Jason ended up going to a totally different elementary school that thankfully was able to do an IEP for him, an individualized education plan, because there was clearly something that they had in their district that the other one did not. And they were able to point out that something was clearly different for Jason. And a lot of it came from phys ed class. They noticed that he would walk on his toes, and walking on your toes was not a normal thing. And he would stim. And if anyone who has kids on the autism spectrum would know what that means as far as a stim goes. Um, it's a way for kids to calm themselves and comfort themselves because they're overstimulated, and everything is like rapid fire to them. And that's why they act the way that they do. And, you know, there's a lot of talk nowadays about where autism comes from, and that somehow it's possible vaccines did it or something like that. I don't know what causes it. um it could be the vaccines, for all I know. It could be a poor diet. It could be anything. It could be stress. I mean, as I said, things were not easy for my kids, and for Jason, because he was so young, he was under a tremendous amount of stress at such a very young age. So he gave teachers a run for their money. But I was right there for him. I did everything I could for him. And that's when I decided, okay, let's do some neurological testing and let's see what's really going on with him. His father didn't want to have to do that. He felt that Jason was just being lazy. And the reason why he chose to say lazy is because Jason didn't have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He had attention deficit disorder. So there was no hyperactivity. He just had a hard time sitting still. He had a hard time focusing, and that made it hard for him to like make friends or pay attention in class. And there was a lot of misunderstandings. Like, well, we'll just put Jason in the back of the class. Meanwhile, Jason had poor eyesight that nobody really knew, making it harder for him even in the back of the class, because not only now could he not pay attention, but he couldn't see what the teacher was talking about. So it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of figuring out, you know, the best way to help Jason. And thankfully, this new school district he was in was more than willing to try and work out things to help him succeed as a student. And he was very smart, very smart. A lot of times he didn't even have to really pay full attention, and he would grasp it, and he would just know what to do. Um, and it was kind of amazing. So that's pretty much how his life began. But even through them, like I said, he was a sponge. He wanted to learn things. He loved going to the local library. He just loved anything that was going to help him learn something new. And he'd get bored very easily. So it would have to be like a new thing, frequent. And sometimes we can go back and look at something that he liked before, but usually it was let's move forward. However, if he found one thing that he really liked, he would just beat that to death. He had to watch it, learn it, read it, whatever it was. He would become kind of like obsessed over it, such as like outer space. For the longest time, he loved outer space and the planets and the alignment and all that. Um, so you could kind of tell, because when you would go into his bedroom, you would find things that he kind of was obsessed about. So speaking of bedrooms, I don't want to make this too long as an intro video, but this room that I'm in right now is one of two different bedrooms that were Jason's in the house that we're in. Um, there's a story behind that, and we'll get to that eventually. But the wall behind me is painted this sapphire blue because that was his favorite color. And so, again, you would find things that he would obsess over, and he loved the color sapphire blue. So a lot of things in the house, things that he owned, are that color. You're also going to see like there's Minecraft stuff behind me. There's a Minecraft poster on the ceiling and a Minecraft foam sword propped over there because he was kind of obsessed with Minecraft for a while. Just lots of things. Sonic the Hedgehog, Transformers, loved Transformers. Anything he could do with his hands. When he got old enough to not want to stim anymore, he still liked to do things with his hands. So he really loved things like, I don't know how many people would know what Bakugan is, but Bakugan was a similar thing. They were little magnetic roll up things, like a ball, and you would put it on a magnet and they would pop open into an animal or some creature. So he loved that. He loved Transformers because would transform them with your hands. He loved the Rubik's Cube, anything with his hands. So yeah, he would get hooked on things. Anyway, if you've lasted this long, thank you. Uh, I'm just trying this out, see if I can get his story out. Like I said, I am writing his story, and I'm trying my hardest to focus on that. Ever since he passed away, I've been having trouble pretty much focusing on anything. Uh, and I like to think it's because he's with me, and so his ADD is rubbed off on me. But anyway, yeah, uh, I'll share more of his story on the next one. And if I ramble a little bit, I apologize. I don't have a script. I don't have anything really I'm going by, just my heart. So thanks for listening, everybody, and have a great night. Bye.